Hello, everyone. This is Bob Penner. It is my great pleasure today, and Sally Preston, because we're on screen together. We have the joy of being able to share it together here today at the South County EDC office. It's my great honor to be able to give away this year's Golden Dedication Marilyn Lassman Lifetime Achievement Award to Sally Preston. This Golden Dedication Marilyn Lassman Lifetime Achievement Award is presented to distinguished leaders and business or citizen that has served in many leadership positions and has integrated valuable benchmarks upon our community. This award is sponsored by Bank of America. Sally has exhibited, as I've gotten to see over the last many years, has exhibited so many, tireless, she's tirelessly, gone through and worked in almost every aspect of our organization. She's been chair of the finance committee for virtually all the 20 years she's been here, except for the couple of years that she was chair of the organization itself. So it is with great honor that I bestow upon you the award.
Thank you, Bob. When Jim called me and told me that I was this year's recipient of the Golden Dedication Award, I started thinking about all of the years that I've been a South County EDC member, and it is about 2 decades. And I started thinking about all the dedicated individuals that I've had, that I've worked beside, all with one goal. Our mission has been to improve our region's image and to improve the quality of life of our residents. And it's been the EDC members who are the real influencers of our region. Community activists like Cindy Gomper-Graves and Marilyn Lassman, business owners like Tony McCune, who is a founding member of the EDC, the McMillan family, the Pasha family, and all of the elected officials like Greg Cox, who's also a founding member of the EDC. We're all committed and working together, and that's what has ensured that we've been successful in reaching our goal. South County EDC has supported initiatives that turned into realities. San Isidro Ped West, that's the pedestrian walkway in case you don't know the order. The CBX cross-border terminal, the community development of East Lake and Otay Ranch, and most recently, the Chula Vista Bayfront projects. So I'm grateful to have been part of it. I'm grateful to have witnessed it. And I sincerely thank everybody for the award.
As many of you may or may not know, Sally will be retiring after nearly 45 years in banking in the next couple of weeks. Yes. But the good thing is, for us, she has agreed to chair the Past Chairs Committee, which will soon be kicking off, and we'll look forward to her leadership in that position.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to that.
Excellent. So now we're going to move on to our Building Back Better panel. So again, my name is Bob Penner. I'm with HomeFed Corp. It's my privilege today to be able to moderate the Building Back Better panel, which is comprised of city managers from National City, Imperial Beach, and Chula Vista. Thank you so much for joining. As kind of a brief intro, I want to start off with, as we're all very well aware of, about 20 months ago, with COVID crashing in on us, our lives all changed dramatically. Well, these people have been on the front line of the city's response to those efforts that no one had any idea were coming, and how they responded has just been amazing. And everything in general has been turned on its ear. And for one thing, 2 years ago, I was standing in front of you at the summit in person, and we were all having a great time. And today we're in our second year of being on a Zoom type meeting, which is just hard to imagine given the fact that I didn't even know what Zoom was before that. So anyway, the list of impacts that you'll hear about today from these people, is just is long, broad, and affects almost every aspect of not only our existence, but their working day. So with us today, we have Andy Hall and Erica Cortez, both city manager and assistant city manager of Imperial Beach. We have Eric Crockett, deputy city manager of Chula Vista, and I believe Brad Raulston is going to be joining us momentarily, the city manager of National City. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
If Andy, if you'd like to kind of kick things off, if you'd like to do kind of a brief update on who you are, what you do, and then we'll kind of go around the table, so to speak, and then we'll start off with some questions.
Oh, you bet. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, it is interesting to think back about what's happened in just the last couple of years and how different all of our lives are. But as we were talking before the panel started, we had a chance to talk about, we've seen the very best in not only humanity, but we saw the very best in our employees. I think both Erica and I can attest to the fact that the employees responded in such a positive way. They always wanted to help. They were outside of their normal routine. They were just so excited about being able to, I think it was a bright time. I know it was a dark time for the country. It was a bright time to be in municipal government because you really felt like you were finally helping. You were doing something that really mattered to people, and they really depended on their local government to help them out. Just the little things we were able to do, which I think we'll talk about today, like allowing people to come out into the street to set up their business, or maybe to have some extra signage while they were getting open and getting started and whatnot. I think that there was a whole different relationship between the cities and businesses, and a lot of those artificial walls were torn down between, oh, I got to go to City Hall to get a permit, and it became, hey, can you guys help me do this? And it was very collaborative. And I hope we don't lose that. More than anything else that we learned or had to learn from this pandemic, I hope we don't learn that ability that we had to work together. And that's what I really look forward to moving forward. Again, I know you have some questions. I've been with the city for about 8 years. My partner in crime, Erica Cortez, has been here 22 and grew up in the South Bay. So she teaches me every day what we should be doing to help our residents, who she knows them better than anyone. But it's been actually, believe it or not, and I've told several people this, it was the best year of my career. It was fun. It was meaningful. It was very, very meaningful, and I enjoyed it. So I don't know if Erica's got anything to add, but I can speak for Brad since he's not here yet. He loves Imperial Beach. He would like to donate most of his Arpa money to Imperial Beach to help our businesses. He asked me to say that in his behalf. So I'll speak for Brad, and then we can save some time later.
Well, Eric is lucky he's here.
Right.
Or Andy will give away the farm. Eric, take it away.
No, I mean, I would just echo what Andy says. I mean, the innovation that our staff did in order to reach out to the community and provide services, and being in economic development and still running the economic development department here in the city, we always fight to cut red tape. And it was really interesting that during the pandemic, we were able to break down a lot of barriers that businesses and residents had faced, and the innovation that staff did to get the message out for people to, receive food and testing and keeping businesses open was just, I've never seen that type of innovation on that scale and that quick time frame. So, yeah, so I just echo everything Andy said.
Oh, excellent.
Including the fact that National City wants to give their ARPA money to Imperial Beach.
Yeah, I fully support that. I fully support that. Chula Vista loves to, we'll keep it in Chula Vista, but yeah, Brad loves to. He's a giver. Brad's a giver.
Exactly. Well, that'll teach him from not showing up on time. Anyway, so we have a few questions. Let's kind of get started on those. Over the past couple of months, we have heard a lot about the American Rescue Plan Act. ARPA. How are each of your cities deploying funds received through these federal programs, and how can each business look to partner and utilize programs that are funded? Eric, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, there was 5 categories that they were outlined within, the allowable use of those funds. I'd say 2/3 of those funds that we received, which is close to $60 million, went to revenue recovery. Revenue recovery then was redeployed into projects, infrastructure projects throughout the city. About 1/3 of it went to public health, so vaccines, testings, and HVAC improvements throughout various public buildings in the city, especially our first line public safety workers. We put some funds into enhancement pay for those frontline workers that really had to be on the front lines the entire time during COVID. And then, economic development grants, we put money towards that, and also infrastructure. One of the things we learned really quickly, at least here in the South Bay, was we got a lot of fiber, but not a lot of high-speed broadband access to our community, and because a lot of that has to do with cost. And so we are moving forward to how do we create a non-commercial fiber network so that we can provide those high-speed internet services and locations at city facilities, at every city facility, so that the public has an opportunity to kind of access, school and work if they can't afford it at their own home. So that's kind of how we deployed it.
Excellent. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, Brad, we spent all your money.
Yep.
What's new?
The ARPA funds, Andy and Eric, generously donated all their funds, your national city funds, to their cities. So you're set. Welcome.
Thanks.
Andy.
Yeah.
You want to take the
Yeah,
question?
no, I appreciate. I'm glad Eric had a chance to go first, because it's nice to hear how other cities are doing it and confirm that some of the things you're doing are consistent with what other cities are doing. We had very similar expenses in some respects. We wanted to make sure to modernize our buildings. We did not have, for instance, the right HVAC. We did not have HEPA filtering. We did not have some of those things in our public buildings. So as we invite the public back to our buildings, we wanted to make sure that they were safe and that our employees were safe as well. So we have used some of those funds, as Eric said, to address direct COVID-related issues like updating HVAC and preparing the city to be safe. But one of the things that our city council did find out, and I think most of us did, is that the ability to gather and spend time with each other in things like our recreation programs and our parks and some of that was really missing, and especially in Imperial Beach. At the time, we were the only city in the county that didn't have a recreation program. And part of that was because we didn't have some of the facilities, or the facilities we had were dilapidated or had some deferred maintenance. So the city council, much like Eric had, and I think it's a little bit confusing to people, but much like Eric had mentioned, most of the ARPA money that we got was obtained as lost revenue. And so that lost revenue comes into the general fund, and then the city council could spend that on needs in the city. And so what our city council really concentrated on is how the businesses were impacted and what we could do to help businesses. And then the recreational facilities in our community, so that people could get back outside, they could do it in a safe way, they could start to gather again, but that we would have some of those safety protocols in place. But then they also tried to reach down to the individuals, because again, in ARPA, there's a lot of money for rent relief. There's a lot of money for utility relief. What there isn't is, if someone has lost their job because of COVID and they have a sewer lateral that has broken in their home, there's not a lot of programs for that. But they have the same needs to fix, for instance, something as simple as a sewer lateral is $8,000. And so the council has set aside some money to make sure that either a business that is struggling or an individual that is struggling with things that don't have other funding sources, that we can provide some of that gap financing. So as far as the business outreach, which I think is what is most interesting to South County EDC, of course, we've had people step forward with some really innovative ideas for food distribution and clothing and some of those kinds of things. And so what we've tried to do is provide funding to some of the nonprofits in the community, because they're better structured to give out those types of things. Cities are structured really to obtain tax dollars and provide services in return. We're not very good at distributing food or clothing or some of the real needs of the community. So what we've done is rely on our nonprofits in the community to do that for us.
Excellent, excellent. Brad, so we're talking about the deployment of the Arpa funds within the city. How's National City been handling some of those things?
Well, thanks, Bob, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, our city council took a two-phase approach to what we're calling the Arpa funds. A few meetings back, we created a spending plan for the first phase, which was about a third of the allocation we received from the federal government. That really went to, what we considered kind of emergency needs that were eligible. And as Andy and Eric talked about, there's a lot of, like most federal money, a lot of strings attached, a lot of eligibility requirements. One thing that is nice, if you're within what they call an eligible census tract, which I think most of these or our three cities qualify, it depends, then you are able to utilize those funds for wellness initiatives, which includes recreational programming and also, deferred maintenance or capital needs for those facilities, whether they be parks or swimming pools or those types of things that promote wellness. So in the first phase, we have a wonderful pool that requires a lot of maintenance. So we're going to be moving forward, so that we can continue to operate our pool. And then what we're doing is looking probably in February and March to do outreach with the community to look at how we prioritize the rest of the funding, which is, the majority of it. We're looking at a lot of things. I mean, clearly economic development is on that list. We already work with our local chamber on some programs. We've worked with South County EDC in the past through the CARES Act money, which was the previous federal stimulus money. So our intent is, to do a robust outreach with the community, starting early in the new calendar year, and then, have a series of meetings where the council can prioritize that funding.
Are there, so, kind of adding on to that question, are there any gaps where businesses could come in and help partner and help the cities in ways that they haven't been, or have they really been pretty good about that filling the void and there are really no gaps?
Well, I'll jump into that one. The businesses have been amazing. The businesses have really stepped forward, much like we're complimenting our staff and how they changed very quickly and adapted to the new world. Our businesses did too. I was fascinated by some of the things. For instance, some of the brewing companies here in town were making hand sanitizer when we couldn't get any, and they were providing it to other businesses and they were providing it to the city. And so I saw this innovation and this great response from our business community as well. But going forward, I think that there are a lot of things that are coming together. For instance, we've got all of this organics issues facing us now. And so there's going to be, an opportunity then to gather some of that extra foodstuffs. And instead of that now being put in landfills, hopefully we can get that out to people in need. And so, but again, a lot of that food has a timeline on it. So this idea of working together and getting things done quickly and kind of coordinating with the nonprofits so that people can take advantage of that rather than food going in the landfill. I think there's a great opportunity now to be working together with the business community to not only address COVID, but some of the new regulations we're going to be facing with, for instance, all the organic legislation that has come down in the last couple of years.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I might take a different spin on that. What
Sure.
I learned in COVID in the business community was that we need to do more in providing capital resources to businesses. What we learned is that, in Chula Vista, 90% of businesses are 10 employees or less, which I imagine is probably the same for IB and National City. And a lot of these businesses and entrepreneurs are, carrying the debt and the investment on their personal bank accounts, and they're not using the capital that banks can provide them. One, either because of generational concerns, the banking industry just isn't getting down to this level. But so I think what at least from my staff, we're looking at as a go forward, how do we get these businesses to really create a reserve account? Don't put a bunch of debt on your personal credit cards and using your personal homes as your security, because there is tools out there, and we need to hook our businesses up with the right associations and right banks so that they can kind of insulate their families from downturns, what we saw with COVID. I mean, people were shut, but they were literally losing their personal life savings because they didn't have the banking industry behind them.
That's excellent. So as we move to another question, we know that many of the small businesses have been impacted by COVID, obviously. How have each of your communities worked to kind of ease that strain on these employers? It dovetails into exactly what you were saying, Eric. Looking forward, how do you see these relationships with small businesses and local governments, evolving? Do we see, kind of a stickiness, a change that'll last for long periods of time going forward, or not, or will we revert back to where we were?
I mean, we're completely pivoting 180 degrees. We were realizing COVID, we didn't have the data we needed in order to provide the resources to the people that needed it quickly. So data is extremely important. So you can actually get out and talk to people and get them the resources they want. We're getting rid of all the red tape. We put all these laws and stuff on the books that don't always make sense, but they just sit there. I mean, we got laws going back to the 70s that nobody enforces from a regulatory standpoint, but yet someone still has to jump through that hoop to get it approved. Money is king. They need cash. They're still hurting. They're still having to fund their reserve balances. So we've completely pivoted kind of how we're approaching the small business community.
Excellent. Brad, how about National City?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the same access. I mean, I'd be interested in talking to Eric about sort of what that data means. I do believe that, when you talk about supporting small business, it tends to be a lot of little things. And, Eric touched on a few. I think that, for us, our permitting, development services, business license program, trying to, we have now moved most of that to online, so you can access that sort of those resources and also that process remotely. But it's really coming down to sort of reaching out to people and trying to see what their needs are. We tend to deal with a lot of worst case scenarios. That's what consumes a lot of our time as we deal with whether it's just code issues related to small business or nuisance issues, et cetera. I think being proactive, getting out, talking about where those friction points are. I do think one of the benefits of COVID has been kind of a whole new look at how we do things. So there's opportunities to change the way that local government does business with small business. So I think that's all out there. That's offset by all of the new regulations that Andy was referring to. There's a lot of new things that we have to monitor and be involved with. So it's kind of threading that needle, but it comes down to being proactive and listening to the business community.
Well, and like Eric said, being able to have effective rules and regulations in place versus just legacy stuff that are those extra hoops and hurdles you have to go through and over to be able to just operate. It's important to get rid of the dead wood, so to speak. Andy, any thoughts?
Well, IB, of course, is a little bit different than the larger cities here. We have a very small business community, and we know most of our business owners by name. They have my cell phone number, and so it's a little bit different in IB. And so what I hope that we don't lose here, that I think is a little bit harder to accomplish in the larger cities of National City and Chula Vista, is again that collaborative spirit. I was really surprised that, I think that our staff was really excited that they would call us and make suggestions like, I have this area of my parking lot and we want to move some of the outside tables so that we can expand and blah, 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 blah. And that was great during COVID. But one of the things we learned was, well, wait a minute, people really love eating outdoors. So is there any way that I can keep this, and can we look for parking somewhere else, or can we maybe be a little bit flexible on how much parking we require? Because man, we were really busy during COVID, but somehow everybody made it here and they found parking and everything. So I think we have, and it probably goes to what Eric's saying, we probably learned that a lot of the regulations that we had really don't, they're great and we can regulate businesses, but they don't really accomplish very much. So looking at those regulations in a way that, okay, we were flexible during COVID and we were able to accomplish a lot of things with our businesses, but a lot of it went against our development ordinances. Well, then maybe our development ordinances are wrong. Maybe it's time to take a look at those, because some of our businesses thrived during COVID and actually were strengthened. Again, Imperial Beach is mostly restaurants, hospitality, restaurants and hotels and gas stations. So that industry sector, the hotels hurt a little bit at the beginning, but that industry sector after, especially restaurants, boomed during COVID. The problem was, how do we accommodate the business? And they were doing very, very well. So I think we learned a lot. I hope we don't slip back into the government is the bureaucracy and they are the hurdle to being successful in business. The collaboration was a lot of fun. It was like I said, it was the funnest year of my career because it was more collaborative. It was more fun. We would come together and we said, yeah, we got to have some parking somewhere. Yeah, but I just talked to the business next door. They don't have any parking. They're an insurance agency. What if I use some of their parking lot? The innovation was great, and I hope we continue to have that innovation and collaboration. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, so then that as everything changed, kind of the next question had been the consumption of resources, and how that's evolved. So how have you been able to kind of address that? Eric, I'll start with you. How has Chula Vista really been able to kind of pivot and address the changing needs as people ultimately started working from home and not driving to work like they normally did? What are the big changes, and how have you addressed them?
Well, that's kind of a twofold question, right? So for our municipal employees, the pivot wasn't hard, to get them to work from home. However, 80% of our workforce still had to come into work every day. I mean, public works can't work from home. You can't fix the street from your couch. You still have public safety. You still got people in the finance department that have to pay bills and do that kind of stuff. So, but I'm hoping it's here to stay. I mean, at least in Chula Vista, I have 88,000 people that leave our community every day and drive north and clog up our freeways and ruin the infrastructure because they're using it so much. So it gave a respite, but it also helped. I don't want to call us a bedroom community, but when you have that many people living in the community every day, when they stay home, they're spending money here in our community versus spending it somewhere else. So that's helpful. It's not only helpful for them to be able to stay home and enjoy their family and have a more productive work life, but it also provides revenue for us to provide greater public services back into the community. So I hope to see a kind of a balance of letting workers stay home and have to go to the office some limited times, but it benefits both the health and wellness of the worker as well as the community and our infrastructure that we use so heavily when we were requiring people to go to school, go to work 5 days a week.
Yeah, definitely. Brad, what are your?
Well, we're kind of a little bit the opposite because we're a job center. So, yeah. On some level, we want people to come to work from the perspective, Eric just discussed to keep the revenues, the local revenues in National City. But I think the other huge dynamic that all cities are dealing with is all the online sales and, and how that's affecting our bottom lines, because there's a lot of discussion, and this is state level discussion, really national level discussion about, how online sales sort of trickle down to local government. So that's a big factor. And obviously we've seen that shift. I mean, I think what you're seeing with our workforces, as pointed out, 80% of us have to come to work. Those 20% that can work from home, we've gotten really pretty good at it. And I think we've all gotten, pretty good at Zoom call. And I attest, or, props to you, Bob. In terms of facilitating a dialogue on Zoom, to me, is tricky because it's not like being in a room, right? Where it's not necessarily rude to talk over people. It's just kind of how we communicate. Excuse me. And when you're in a Zoom call, I think you need like a conductor, I say, like what you're doing, like, Brad, Eric, Andy, what do you think? And I think for me, I appreciate a true dialogue where you're sitting around a table and, people are able to, feel the room and have that conversation. So it's a balancing act. I think we've definitely, the pendulum has swung hard to the, remote online world. I think it'll start to swing back. Ultimately, we find the balance that works for all of us. I prefer in-person meetings, but like I said, I've gotten good at Zoom meetings. But I think for our workforces, you have to look at it across the board. You have to consider the entire employee group or all of the employees. And everyone's always kind of looking at each other and saying what's fair, what's not fair. So it's tricky. We have over 400 employees. I don't even know how many Eric and Andy have. It's a lot of employees that you need to prioritize. And so we're doing it. I think we're looking at January as like kind of a back to work date where we'll have in-person council meetings and that. But, truthfully, I think it was last January we said the same thing. So, it's month by month and, kind of here we go. And, we'll make the best of it.
Well, it kind of all boils down to flexibility and being able to adapt and adjust to not only the needs, but the circumstances you're dealt. And it's been fun to see how responsive each of your cities have been. Because like I said earlier, people were tested and they've responded. So it's great to see. So the kind of one of the wrap up questions, and feel free to spend a couple minutes each of you. Is as you look forward on the horizon, and knowing where you've been and what we've experienced, what keeps you up at night? What's there that you fear does knowing where and what you've come from, and how things can change so dramatically. How has that changed? Before, I'm sure it was, an individual meeting, one-on-one with someone that was, just randomly coming in, and now it's, big scale stuff. So kind of give me a little, or us a little bit of a background on what that is for each of you.
I was going to joke with Eric, Chula Vista stealing all our money.
Well, I know now IB gets Chula Vista's money. That's all. That's
well, yeah. It looks like Eric just slipped off. So
yeah, I know. I think he's
free reign.
And first of all, what keeps me up at night, truthfully, is worrying about our employees. And we've gone through so much, and with the COVID protocols, there's just been a lot of internal issues that are worrisome. And so we're a big family, and we got just a lot of challenges, whether it's the employee or their extended family and so on and so forth. But in terms of services we provide, for me, and I think this is most cities, the unsheltered population that has grown and I think that has become more visible, and it's due to a lot of factors. I think Caltrans is now finally sort of trying to, address the issue because, most people see on-ramps, off-ramps, along the freeways, where that problem is very visible. But truthfully, we've been dealing with this issue for a very long time. It just used to kind of be more hidden. And I think when it becomes visible, then obviously the community wants more immediate action. And we're working hard on that. You may have seen in the news, we're working on a shelter. There's a lot. I like what the San Diego Mission rescue mission said, the leader of that says, we talk a lot about housing first, and housing is a major issue. We need to build, achievable, attainable, affordable housing. But it's really, when you deal with the unsheltered population, it's really bed first. It's like, how do you provide a bed? And there's lots of ways to do that. But I think when that conversation gets wrapped into the housing or the affordable housing conversation, it's very hard to get down to, incremental progress. And I think for me, it's really the biggest issue. Most of our departments are involved in one way or another. The police department tends to take, the heavy burden because, even though we do work with nonprofits and others that specialize in that work, there's a lot of calls for service, whether it be directly from, the individual that's dealing with a circumstance, or from small businesses that are clearly affected, by, individuals that, are just, having, mental challenges and having problems. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm going to say I do sleep pretty well, but, things that do keep me up at night are, again, our employee issues and our unsheltered population.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And I see Eric slipped off, but is pleading that you don't.
He went to take a nap.
He says he can still hear, so he's got a watchful ear.
Andy, they only work from 8 to 9, so But no, I do wanted to. I guess you asking a very interesting question about what keeps me up at night. Anybody knows me, I've never slept a day in my life, so I'm up all night anyway, and I think crazy things at night. But I think what is most concerning to me is that one of the best things that happened in COVID was it seemed like the community came together and we did some very interesting things, and we were very collaborative, and people didn't complain about, why are you letting them do that? That doesn't meet your code. I mean, we all understood, we kind of worked together and we solved these problems, and there was some real community, if you will, or some collaboration. What I'm noticing now, though, is, and what keeps me up at night, is there's a great polarization in our country, in our state, and even in our communities over things like vaccinations, or things like, and we don't have room. It seems like we have less and less room for discussion and collaboration, or working together. It seems like compromise has become a 4-letter word instead of a very noble cause. Mm-hmm. And so I think what keeps me up at night is going forward. I loved the way we were able to all work together, and no one really cared about, winning and losing. We were all trying to survive and win together. And as things start to improve, it seems like we're going back to being very competitive. I think we've all gotten very sharp because now we communicate a lot more through Zoom or Facebook or Twitter, because we don't meet together as much and discuss things like we used to as a community, or in meetings, live meetings and whatnot. So I think what keeps me up at night is that I hope that a small town like Imperial Beach will find a way to continue to kind of thrive in that community setting, instead of becoming polarized over things that 20 years from now, no one's going to really care what your opinion was on vaccination. What we're going to really care about is how we all came together and made our communities thrive through very difficult times. So I don't mean to be philosophical. You asked me what keeps me up at night. It's the polarization of our communities and our issues, on whether that's housing or whether it's, whatever it is. It seems like if you don't agree with me, then I'm very angry with you, instead of, well, why don't you agree with me, and where do we have common ground? It doesn't seem like we're there these days, and that's what keeps me up at night. You asked a question, you got an answer.
Well, I mean, and it is amazing how some people feel a little more emboldened when they're hiding behind a screen and a keyboard versus that that interaction that everyone likes to have. So it creates different behaviors. And anyway, I think it's our time to wrap up, as I see Jim checking on, and want to thank you all very much for joining the panel and your words of wisdom. And we look forward to healthy and productive year ahead. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you both, and thank you, Eric. Sorry, I know you had to fall off there for a sec, but the panel, it's always great to hear from you guys. You guys share so much insight into what's going on, and we enjoy working hand in hand with you on those projects. So thank you both, and thank you, Bob, for great facilitation.